Hi, and welcome back to It's Not Rocket Science 5 questions over coffee. I haven't actually got a coffee in front of me at the moment. This is actually a fruit tea because if I drink too much coffee after lunchtime, I start to go to sleep. And I don't want to go to sleep right at the moment because I'm really interested in speaking with Howard Polansky. Howard is he's a cash flow coach. Who doesn't need to speak to one of those nowadays? Howard is the cash flow coach at Financially Led, and we're going to get into what that means at the moment. But who doesn't want to spend some time thinking about cash flow and how to preserve it in these days? So, Howard, welcome to It's Not Rocket Science 5 questions over coffee, and I trust you're ready to take us through cash flow and Financially Led.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's terrific. So let's start with let's just start. You're a former dentist, so we'll get into how you ended up in this situation. But who is it you're trying to help with your advice on cash flow and financial matters overall?
Those that don't like being in debt. And if we're talking about people, let me just use the US since that's where I'm based. Those professions that are high debt type of professions, medical doctors, dentists, chiropractors, optometrists, lawyers, where they just have these massive fixed payments that they're trying to navigate around. And sometimes it feels like all I'm doing is going to work to literally pay off these debts. When do I get to enjoy my life?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that there's not other industries that face that challenge, but those are the obvious ones that if there is a way for us to minimize the impact of those fixed debt payments, get them out of our lives sooner, pay less interest, now all of a sudden you have more money freed up at the end of each month.
And Howard, I'm sure you can sort of you can help us to understand this. But was that a situation that you were in as a dentist? Did you find yourself wondering every day, why am I doing this? There must be an easier way to make a loss, and that's what led you to where you are.
Well, I didn't know if that was going to be the question now or it was going to be question number 5 in terms of how I got into this. If you want to wait until then, we can, or you want me to go through the story now, I will.
I'll put it to you as question 5. Let's talk a little bit more about how you the sort of things that the people you've helped have got into the sort of trouble they have, and what do they try and do to get out of it? What is it you see when you sort of they eventually engage an expert like you and you start dealing with them, so they recognize eventually they have a problem and they need to do something about it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I hate to call it a mistake, but one of the ways that people are doing it, just because it's by default or by design. And so by default, they're like, I've got this mortgage, let's just say that. And in the US, it's traditionally a 30-year mortgage. Well, I don't want to pay on this for 30 years. So let me throw a little bit of additional money against this. So if I've got a $2,000 mortgage, let me put $2,200. And I know that's going to save me some time. The problem is, what's your payment the next month? It's still the $2,000. It does not change when you put extra money against the mortgage, because the mortgage is 2 French words put together, which literally means death pledge. So the system is set up for you to make payments until the day you die, or you're going to die trying. This allows you, and again, we're over on different sides of the pond, so I'm not going to keep this a secret. Over in the UK and Australia, they're known as offset mortgages. Mm-hmm. So they're open-ended mortgages where all of the money can go in to lower the overall balance of the debt. When you lower the overall balance of the debt, you're lowering the amount of interest you pay on a daily basis. And then when the expenses come due, you just take that much out, but you've got the excess now attacking the entirety of the debt, versus the way that it's set up in the US. They have a one-way street known as your house in front of you. You only make the minimum payment because you're like, if I put more money in, I can't get the money back out. And when we don't have access to money, that's when people don't sleep very well. So that's the common mistake, is how I'm just putting more money into this loan, but then if something happens, I get disabled, I get fired, I still have this fixed payment in front of me, and now I have no wiggle room.
Yeah, I'm always very aware that a lot of business owners uh, disobey, for want of a better word, one of the golden rules, which I think is something I hope you'll agree with, which is they forget that they need to pay themselves first out of the income into their business. They're putting it against all sorts of other things, and then eventually they realize that there isn't anything left for them, and they're left in a situation like you've just said, where suddenly they are unable to pay the bills that have come in for their family, and they then have to get back on the treadmill and work even harder because they've now forgotten that they've got a life. And I just think it's often the golden rules of, thinking about your cash flow and how you allocate it are so difficult for many business owners for reasons, because often we are not taught, we are not given the instruction early enough in our lives about how to manage money.
What's even worse than not paying yourself first is not only do you pay yourself, you take the money from the IRS that you have to pay them and use that on your expenses too. I've seen that situation happen also. That's never a good situation that I want to be involved in.
No, if there's one thing you should definitely be very aware of, is the tax man will find you and will hunt you down if you are diligent in not diligent in paying that money off. Howard, look, these must be times at the moment people are listening to you and thinking, I think I hear myself in this. This might be me. What valuable piece of advice or free offer can you sort of help people with? And how would you sort of give them that allow them to sort of access you?
Yeah, probably the easiest way to understand a little bit more of the concept behind this is my ebook. So financiallyled.com. So that's just LED, financiallyled.com/ebook. It'll take you maybe about 20 minutes to go through and start to understand the 3 lessons on how and why this works. The second, if it's okay for me to give a second piece of advice, Stuart, is if you have lived in, let's just keep it on the personal side for now. If you've lived in your residence for a number of years now, whether it's in overseas or in the US, it doesn't matter. Your house is probably appreciated substantially, and there is equity, there's cash literally trapped in the bricks. While you're employed, while business looks good, go get a home equity line of credit. Have access to the cash, because you just never know what's going to happen in life. I mean, here's a perfect example. One of my clients is a dentist. She texts me back in November saying, guess what happened to me 2 months ago? I'm like, this was just out of the blue. I'm like, I don't know, COVID? It's like, no, 2 ruptured aneurysms and a mini stroke. She's 46 years old, Stuart. I don't think this was in her life plan in terms of, I want to be in the ICU and have brain surgery for 3 weeks, sitting in a hospital. If it wasn't for having the business line of credit set up 12 to 18 months ago, her business would be toast. That buffer of cash is what allowed her to keep paying the bills, even though there was no money coming in. It was the access to cash that allowed her to pay her team, pay the bills, so that she could get back to still having a functioning business.
I've just put a link on the screen in front of you, Howard. I'm going to put that story and the link to your ebook into our vault. Our vault, if you listen, guys, if you're listening to this and you go, I need to do that. If you didn't capture what Howard just said, go to Systemize, and that's the word Systemize, but it's spelled with an S, not a Z. Systemize/free-stuff. There's a vault there with and we'll put Howard's link, and we'll put that story in order for you to be able to sort of capture that and come back to it again and again and again, because that is really valuable advice. I think that's a truth that everybody should be trying to do, Howard. It's not just dentists that have aneurysms. Anybody can have one of those. I have a friend who went on a very nice holiday, fell over skiing, and they were in a similar situation. They were suddenly unable to work. And if they hadn't set up the right systems in place, in his case, it was the fact that his business carried on because he had set up teams that were working. But you have to think ahead, don't you? You do have to do exactly what you said. This might not be in the plan, but there is a risk that this could happen. So therefore, I need to sort of deal with the risk before it happens, not as it happens, because it takes time. These things take time to set up. They don't happen overnight. You have to plan it. You have to think about it. You have to put that into your thinking, don't you?
Absolutely. And look, you know as well as I do, when are banks going to be most when are they going to be most appreciative of giving you money? When you don't need it.
When you've got it.
That's exactly, like, as soon as you're in distress, they're the last people that want to help you. So get this set up while things are going good.
Yeah.
And just have it there just in case, because stuff happens. We're live, so I definitely don't want to say what I normally say, but stuff happens, and it's just far easier to have this all in place before any of this stuff happens, because we know it's happened to everyone. It's part of life.
It is. And there's an old story about a man walking down the road. It's pouring with rain, and he sees a farmer digging a well, and he turned around and said, "Why are you digging the well when it's raining?" And he said, "Because now the ground is soft and the digging is easy. The last thing you want to be doing is digging a well when there is no water and the ground is hard." So if you're in a situation at the moment where your business is still doing well, I know we're going into some economically interesting times at the moment, but if you've got a business that's doing well, now's the time to be digging that well, ready for when perhaps the ground hardens and it's not quite as easy digging. Howard, I'm gonna get on with this, because otherwise I think we'll be here for many hours talking about this. So was there a sort of we sort of talked about the origin of your sort of a realization that financially led was the way that you wanted to go? Was there a book, a course, something that led you from where you are as a dentist now to being the guy that tries to advise other people that they need to think about their cash flow?
Yeah, the one book which really helped in terms of solidifying this whole concept, the author's name is Harj Gill. Harj is the first name, Gill, and the book is something like Pay Off Your Debt Sooner. That was the first time I ever heard in terms of this offset mortgage. They call it the Australian mortgage or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, this is the most logical way I've ever seen in terms of being able to pay off debt. It doesn't have to be a house. It can be student loans. It can be cars. It can be business loans, whatever it is. I just realized that once I was able to utilize this for myself, and I got down to a $24 house payment, which might be about 20 pounds for you. I shared that with another dentist, and he could not believe what he was seeing, and is like, "Can you help me?" And I'm like, "I think so." And he ended up paying off his house in 8 months instead of 30 years.
Wow.
And that's when the light bulb went off. And then later on, I was like, wait, I think I can help apply this idea to businesses, because if the business has more cash flow, where is it going to spill over? It's going to spill over to that owner's personal life, which is where I was trying to make the impact anyway. And the answer is, yeah, it works beautifully. For the average business owner, the cash flow improvement's been over $65,000 in year one. So again,
for those
not doing anything crazy.
For those that want a personal testimony, I had an offset mortgage. We became mortgage free quite a while ago, and I'm very grateful for the fact that I found it. So Howard, perhaps if I'd got this advice from you many years ago, I'd have, but I found it myself. So they're a great thing. They're a great thing.
For the right person. If you're going to go and just, spend on Louis Vuitton and Lamborghinis and trips around the world, and you don't have the cash flow to back that up, please don't do this. You are going to get yourself in trouble.
I will not immediately go out and buy a Lamborghini then. I will keep that. I'll keep what I've got at the moment, because clearly that would be the wrong thing for me. So, Howard, let me sort of help you get back out to helping people do this rather than talking about it. Is there a question that you think I should have asked you in these questions? Is there one thing that you're thinking, I wish he'd hurry up and get to the really important question? And obviously, once you've posed the question, you need to answer it, because I don't know what the question is at the moment.
We kind of hinted at it before. How the heck does someone go from being a dentist to doing this?
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So I tell people now, sometimes life leaves you little clues, and other times life hits you with the 2x4. My 2x4 moment was Sunday morning, Memorial Day weekend, 2018. Jaden, my older son, is 12 years old. I'm sitting next to his bed. He realizes I'm there and he says, "Dad." His voice is barely above a whisper. "Yeah, buddy." I lean over the bed. I put my ear over his mouth to make sure I can hear him. And he says 3 words I'll never forget. "Am I dying?"
Oh.
12 days earlier, Jaden came home with a stomach ache. 3 days after the stomach ache, we're in the ICU at the Children's Hospital having emergency surgery.
Whoa.
It was appendicitis that turned septic. 29 days in the hospital, 19 of them in the ICU, 8 straight days of sedation because he went to the operating room 5 times. After they take the tube out of his throat, they give him methadone and morphine to bring him down from the drugs he was on. So my 12-year-old son looks like a heroin addict coming down from a high. And the very first question he will only ask me are those 3 little words. Am I dying? My first breath was, did I hear him correctly? My second breath was, do not lose it right now. I look him in the eyes and I tell him, no, you're not dying. You've had prayers from thousands of people all around the world, and you're going to be just fine. He looks at me. He knows I'm telling him the truth. He closes his eyes to get more rest. I walk outside the room, and then I broke. I was already miserable. I was burnt out from 16 years of dentistry. And one thought seared into my mind. If life is this fragile and I'm unhappy with the path that I'm on, burn the ships. It's over. That's what I did. I sold my practice. September 2018, just walked away. And if I didn't make the bold move of walking away from dentistry, I would have never had this $24 house payment and never took the shot to open a new business and do this. So that's the one question, Stuart.
Howard, if that is the story that motivates people to get and think about their cash flow situation, to manage their business in such a way that they turn it from being a millstone around their neck to something which is actually an asset and something which brings them the financial freedom that you got from making that decision. I trust and pray nobody has to go through what you went through to make that decision, but we can all learn from the fact that you cannot regulate and cannot plan for life to continue being the joy that it is. So if it is currently raining in your business and the ground is soft and you are not currently digging the well and taking advice from people like Howard, I would encourage you, please go and find that stuff in what we've said with that. Howard, get that ebook and get on and listen to some of this brilliant advice. Howard, listen, that is a hugely humbling story for me to have listened to, and I'm grateful for the fact that you spent just a few minutes with us, giving us that story. Let me just be slightly flippant now and just say, please come subscribe to our newsletter list, because I would love you listening to us now to be able to get and hear people like Howard talk about these stories and really motivate you to make your business better. If you go to www.systemize.me/subscribe, there's a simple form. It just asks for your first name, your email address, and that's all I want from you, just so that I can send you an email once a week saying, we've got this really great guest coming up tomorrow. Come listen to some of the stuff they do. And you can listen to some real truth bombs like Howard's given us today. Howard, that is a powerful way to end. I'm not really wanting to say very much more other than thank you very, very much for coming on and motivating us to get control of our finances and our cash flow, and thank you for taking the steps that you've taken in order to be that that cash flow coach.
Stuart, thank you for the opportunity.
It's been brilliant. Thank you.